Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm talking to you today because I think there are a lot of people like me who really want to speak a new language well, but have hit a blockage on the way to an advanced level. What I've been developing isn't entirely new, but I've been able to put a few tweaks on some common exercises in order to make them more efficient. I hope you can start integrating some of these practices into your daily routine so you can see improvements in your language skills. Try something for 4 weeks and let me know what you think. If you want this information at your fingertips, I have a free 2-page PDF cheat sheet that's available to download on my website, and you can click the link in the description box below. My main theory is to repeat the same materials 3 or more times a week. I'll go into it more in another video, but I want to think about language learning like doing heavy squats at the gym. One squat on a Monday doesn't have the same impact as doing 3 sets of 12 consistently over a few months. The same action is repeated for muscle growth. This mindset works for me because the advice of watching more series on Netflix or listening to more podcasts just doesn't cut it because listening is the least effective way for me to retain information. And I want to see figurative muscle growth in my brain. If you're like me, you need more active ways to reach some sort of level of fluency. My personal goals are to speak a new language well, not perfectly, but I want to get to a point where a native speaker will comment on what an excellent command of the language I have. Okay, so do you feel the same way I do? Today, I want to talk to you about the areas of improvement that we need to concentrate on, some of the exercises I believe we can help us achieve our goals, and also what you can expect from me in the future. But first, I'll start off by telling you one of the reasons why I am creating a newish approach to language learning. Although I love YouTube and have learned so much, the information I found, or perhaps what the algorithm fed me, was unhelpful. A lot of popular videos I saw were unreasonable or vague, like learning a new language in 30 days or 3 months. But it turns out I need to spend 3 to 8 hours a day slogging away, in books or whatever. No, thank you. And just so we're clear, it takes a smart child with a flexible brain years to learn a new language. But yet my old ass is going to be fluent in a matter of weeks? No, thank you. Other than that clickbait, I found the information floating around on YouTube to be lacking action items or exactly the same as literally any other video on YouTube. This was very frustrating for me because I hadn't learned a concrete way to noticeably see improvement. I've seen 4 core areas across YouTube and the internet: listening, speaking, writing, and reading. I prefer to call the first two listening comprehension and then verbal fluency. For those of us who want to speak a new language well, our targets must be more specialized. To these core four, I want to add two more: self correction ability and vocabulary retention. I think these are imperative for intermediate learners to get to the next level. These two concepts we can do in our native language, and we need to transplant these skills into our new language's operating system. Within listening comprehension, here are a few subtopics: phonology, or the sounds associated with the language; slang and idioms, understanding fast or unclear speakers; and getting cultural references. For verbal fluency, we want to get to speaking without thinking for the most part. We also need to work on clear pronunciation, speaking concisely, and expressing complex thoughts. Be patient because building the physical muscle memory in your mouth and the figurative muscle memory in your brain will take time. For me, I already struggle with verbal fluency in my native language, English, so this is my personal weak point. But I've surprised myself by being able to speak without translating first, although I still struggle with verb tenses and finding the right word sometimes. In writing, we have to work on spelling, which is a gigantic pain point for people learning the English language. We need to work on our handwriting for those of you learning scripts like Arabic or Japanese, and also writing for specific audiences, which needs a precise command over the language. This last one is important for people who want to make money or perhaps a name for themselves in their target language. In reading, we can work on understanding grammar such as spelling, verbs, word choice, and sentence structure. And we can also slow down to process cultural references. Self correction ability is, I think, all about grammar. This will give you confidence to speak without thinking because you know how to fix what you say. So instead of following the pattern of forming or remembering a sentence in your head and then saying it, you speak spontaneously. And then when something doesn't sound right, your brain will detect it. Let's say you think, oh, something didn't sound right, and then you realize you should have used the subjunctive mood, and your brain will raise an error message, and then you'll say the sentence correctly. In your native language, a verb correction takes like a second, right? I think this is less time than rehearsing literally every sentence, first in your mind and then saying it. Lastly, vocabulary retention is best for speaking concisely. In my opinion, vocabulary retention is more important in the beginner and more advanced phase of learning a language. I think that for intermediate learners, or at least for myself, my top three areas are I want to recognize my mistakes on the fly, so self correction. I want to understand what other people are saying, listening comprehension, and I want to be able to speak as fluidly as possible, so verbal fluency. I'm in a Spanish speaking country now, and when I can't find the word immediately, I just ask in Spanish, what's the name of this thing that does XYZ? And so far, it's worked, and no one's been annoyed by that process. Here's a quick overview of some sample exercises that you can try out. This is included in the cheat sheet you can download. Your brain works differently than mine, so there's a good chance you won't have the same areas of improvement that I listed here. Doing passive practices are important, but I won't talk too much about them here. Do things like reading for pleasure, watching series and movies, listening to podcasts and music, and chatting with strangers. I think of passive exercises as a way to gauge my progress. Was I able to read an entire paragraph without looking up a word? Did I find myself not looking at subtitles for 10 or 15 minutes? Did I use some slang that I learned last week? In the active approach, several areas for improvement are touched in each exercise. Why? Because I'm a busy adult with ambitious goals but limited time. Out of these, I have two favorites. First, saying sentences along with the native speaker. I actually like this better than what's called shadowing. I'm not a big fan of the process of shadowing. I feel like the process puts reliance on short term memory. I think that by shadowing, you develop the habit of using your memory before actually speaking. I prefer talking with the speaker in the video because I want to focus on speaking fluidly, so I want to cut out the step of recalling words before saying a phrase or sentence. I think it is also useful to understand the rhythm of the speaker and catch yourself making mistakes, which I think you can hear better using this method. I also found that this helps a whole lot with listening comprehension. I think my brain can hear sound patterns in words and liaisons better when I actually say them as if I were a native speaker. Also, I can do this every day for 5 minutes, which means I have no excuse to not do it. The other one I found to be most effective is handwriting the text that was written by a native speaker or from professional translation, and then I would translate it by hand. I retain information best by writing. Typing doesn't work for me. What I like in particular are books with pictures because I think my brain makes connections and associations easier. This exercise is similar to what Luca Lampariello calls the bidirectional translation method, but personally, I can't be bothered to translate the text back. That's a laziness or short attention span problem on my part. But this whole process that I'm sharing with you today comes from a random stop I made to a bookstore in Antilles, France in the spring of last year. I'm not into graphic novels or comic books at all, but I had to pick up this beautiful cover of Decorum 2 by Jonathan Hickman and Mike Huddleston. Looking through the book, I fell in love with the art style. I've been asked in the past if I can choose a superpower, what would it be? And I decided it would be tetrachromacy, or the ability to see variations in colors more intensely than the vast majority of the population. So I had to get this book for the art alone, but I decided I would read it in order to improve my French. I had difficulty remembering what the words meant, so I decided to start writing out the text because I know that's how I retain information. I realized this process worked when I was getting an Uber back to my apartment, and the driver asked me in French, where should I drop you? And I responded, en face de l'échafaudage. I couldn't believe that I knew the word for scaffolding in French, and it was because I copied it from this book a few times. I realized that I was onto something, and the opening line of the book resonated with me loud and clear. Cet art, comme toute aptitude requérant quelques compétences, n'a rien d'inné et tout acquis. Sa maîtrise s'appuie sur trois piliers: l'éducation, l'application, et la répétition. In this case, they are talking about the skill of assassination, but why not apply the theory to learning a language? How about we go over a sample schedule for 1 week? Let's say you're a busy adult like me who wants to concentrate on listening comprehension and self correction for the next month in Spanish. The next step is to identify an exercise that takes 5 minutes to do so you'll never skip it. In a typical week, I repeat the same 20 sentences every day from a YouTube video, like from Kendra's Language School. I'm not associated with them, but I like that this channel puts the sentence on the screen so I can read along. For that practice, it's not about remembering the words. It's about saying the same sounds as the speaker so you can hear them better. I also look at a lyrics video from a reggaeton song so I can hear and understand where normal people tend to drop letters when speaking casually. Those two together take less than 10 minutes. If I have extra time on a certain day, or better yet, if I choose to make extra time, then I will add more material for fun. I am working on a super secret verb project right now, and I've been dedicating 30 to 60 minutes a day to it. It's pretty engaging, but I still try to break it up into 15 to 20-minute chunks. I aim for 5 to 6 days a week. That's pretty much it for my active practice, and if I choose to make extra time, I will add other things like handwriting text and then translating it, reading out loud before going to bed, or journaling about the best parts of my week, and maybe even what I'm looking forward to in the next week. I've been pretty happy with this because I do actually notice improvement. Of course, my ability ebbs and flows, but I've learned to accept that that's how life goes. And don't forget your passive exercises, like a few I listed here. Thanks for watching this video, and I would love to hear if what I shared with you is something new, and if you will or have put anything into practice. Most, if not all of these tips can be done for free. You might just have to pay for an online service to have the opportunity to chat with someone. If you could drop a comment saying something like, I tried XYZ for 4 weeks and it worked and it didn't work because of ABC, that would be great. Tell me where you've been stuck and I might be able to help you. Lastly, you might be asking, so who am I to give this advice? I'm not a polyglot or a linguist, so what are my qualifications? In my professional career, I've created technical products and solutions. My vocation, or dare I say ikigai, is identifying a problem precisely and then coming up with a game plan. So I'm here to share how I am solving a problem that I have in common with you and to hopefully provide some new information that's needed here on YouTube. Here on YouTube, I want to provide resources that I could not find and I think people like you and me would need. I do have a few products up my sleeve to help you solve your language learning problems, and I will share with you what I come up with. In my next video, I will go into depth about why I think that you should stop focusing on memorization exercises and why concentration on retention learning is better. If what I've been saying has resonated with you, you can subscribe here on my YouTube channel for the occasional update or sign up on my site for my email list. A link to my site is in the description box of this video. Right now, I have a free PDF download available on my website summarizing the main points of this video. I've shared this information with other people and have so far gotten some pretty positive feedback along with some constructive comments that I've used to make what I've been doing better. Bye for now, and I wish you the best of luck.